Okay, so we're back into, we have a motion to go into regular meeting.
Come out of executive session at 7:18.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. And now we could stand for the pledge. Flag by Mr. Mark Ballard. Flag's over that corner there.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition of visitors.
There's Bill Mason, who's representing the city on the abatement TIF resolution 11.07.
The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, thank you. Well, my name is Bill Mason. I'm with the law firm of Bricker and Eckler. And we were retained probably about a month ago to try to help the financing and the Broadway building project, to try to see if we can get that through. It's a tough project. It's a tough deal to try to get done, but we're still working on it. And I think we got pretty close, but we're not there yet. And the resolution before you today is to ask for a TIF, a tax increment financing for that project with 30-year, 100%, which I know that's large. And we also are asking for the CRA. Now, the Community Reinvestment Act, we don't believe really it's a pre-1994 reinvestment area, but we wanted to bring it before you, talk to you, to make sure everybody's on the same board and what we're doing. Like I said, we're trying to, as you all know the building probably much better than I, we're trying to save that building. And right now, I don't believe I think they're paying the taxes on it $32,000 a year. If we're able to survive, to save it and build it and make it what it can be, we expect it to be a $12 million investment. Maybe the value of that building won't get that high, but that's what our expectations are. So I'm here today before you to ask you to pass a resolution to acknowledge the CRA, grant the CRA for 15 years, 100%, and the TIF for a 30-year, 100%. Now, we work in a lot of communities. I know that's a big ask of everybody, but I think this is a special project in that if we're not able to put a financial package together that finances and redevelops that structure, it's going to hit the wrecking ball, and then it'll be zero value on it. So that's our ask of you today.
And again, just for clarification, the first 12 years in the abatement, we have no say on anything, correct?
That's correct.
So what we're looking at truly is what happens between years 13 and 30.
That's correct. Because of the CRA, yes.
And we would retain the taxes we currently receive.
That's correct.
That would not change.
That's correct. And there, we put in there as a whereas that we will not come back and ask for that. But the fact of the matter is, this is a very, very, very tough project. And if we get everything in line, and that's the only thing holding us back, we'll come back with you and say, look, this is where we're at, and you say yes or you say no to it. But we're looking for every nickel that there is to try to save the building.
Has the city council voted on this yet?
Not yet.
Do you know when they're planning?
It's scheduled tentatively for the 27th. I talked to the mayor today about it. Yeah,
Or December?
12/27.
When?
December 27th.
Oh,
They'll be hosting a special meeting for that.
okay.
You better explain the CRA and how that affects us.
Yes. So the taxes that are being currently paid on a regular basis are, I believe, it's $32,000.
And it's 1.1 million of value, which works out to about $32,000 a year in tax revenue.
So you will forego any increased value. So as this building gets redeveloped, and let's say it's worth $10 million, so there's a whole new valuation. We're asking to keep that valuation at the $1.8 million valuation for the full use of the CRA. So it would be the 15 years out or 12 years out, I believe I right? It's 12 years.
Yes, 12
It's
years.
12 for any the current structure, but if it was new, if you were doing new
12.
building, then it'd be 15.
So it would stay at, so you would continue to collect the taxes for the time that it's worth $80 million on the 1.8 million, not the 10 million. The extra money would go back in to help pay for the bonds and the financing of the structure.
And is there any plan in the development to do anything, any new construction other than just rehabbing the building as a whole?
As I understand it, it's, the only thing that may get rebuilt is the platform, the parking garage. That's been falling apart, and it's gonna have to be, probably gonna have to be rebuilt. But other than that, you're gonna just see the same structure looking, and between 58 and 60 units inside.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Any other questions?
The one piece where the language changed within, that I pulled the resolution and popped in a new one, is because we worked back and forth, and I wanted to have some kind of language in there in regards to that the value, the current value is protected, so that we agree to this resolution, and, in a short while, the owner couldn't go back and ask the auditor to lower the value. So with that piece of language in there, it protects the current value, so we still would at least collect at that amount. Short of course, the auditor could come back and say that they deemed the property less, but it couldn't be initiated by the owner.
Okay. Thank you. And that'll be coming up later in our agenda. This time, hearing of the public. Anyone want to address us? Thank you. We need a motion to approve the minutes from December 5th, 2016, regular meeting.
So.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain, I was not at the meeting.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. And Mr. Hill, report recommendation to the treasurer.
Recommend for approval the month-end November 2016 financial reports.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Report recommendation to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'd like the board to consider for approval 10.01 to 10.09 personnel matters.
So moved. Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval 11.01 to 11.07 operation matters.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Any business for discussion, gentlemen? Committee reports, requests from board members.
I have a report, if I may, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
This is probably the last legislative report for the calendar year. 2 new bills have been enacted. House Bill 113 will require students to learn CPR in order to graduate. And Senate Bill 315 requires transportation supplemental payments to the biennial budget. That's to help districts, I guess, that need additional funding. Those both have been enacted by the legislature. There are still 91 bills pending, and one of them I think we're going to want to follow very carefully. It's House Bill 628. It goes all the way back to the Rolfe decision, which, as you may remember, stated that funding in Ohio for public schools was unconstitutional. So, House Bill 628 would completely change school funding from local property tax to state property tax. It would require voter approval on the 2017 general election ballot. If enacted and approved in its current form, the state would set statewide, as I understand, the statewide property tax millage rate. Basically, it would be the same for every school district in the state. That would equalize the payments, but it would equalize the tax, the millage. All local levies would end. So if we had any levies on the books, which we would, they would be canceled and gone. And we would never again be voting to put school levies on the ballot. The state would pay off any individual, pay off any existing bond debts. Josh, I assume that would be the bond debts we still have outstanding for the construction of the new buildings. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we would not have to pay that. Of course, then that issue would come off the tax bill. It has some other things that could come along. The Ohio School Facilities Commission would be terminated, although it has pretty much been folded into the OFCC. Bill would also end state scholarship programs. Open enrollment would no longer be allowed. And here's a very interesting one. Student transportation plans would move from individual school districts to the County Educational Service Center, which has no experience whatsoever in transporting students. Now, how much of that will stay in the bill, whether we'll ever get to the voter, who knows? But the OSBA is very concerned. That's Ohio School Boards Association. And they are asking school board members around the state to continue with input. So next year we may want, as this progresses and more information is available, I would recommend we have an open discussion as we see where it's going. Because it probably has some good things and some not so good things. But it's the first time since the Roth decision that they've actually going to try to change Ohio's constitution. Is that right, Josh?
Correct.
Thank you. That's my report.
Interestingly, though there's no local tax collected, the state collects the property tax. It's not as if taxpayers aren't going to continue to pay property taxes. It's just not locally administrated, which is interesting. I was also, did you look at the differentiation in terms of the simulation or the simulation of what Lorain would lose?
Yeah, well, in the one scenario was $877,000. But there's another table that came late today.
Yeah, I saw that one today, the table B.
And so all I did was save those
Yeah, table B.
URLs so we can go back and look at them. But
Did everyone get those?
I didn't see today's.
came in about 4 o'clock. It's your OSBA.
It's some really radical. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
and without really understanding it, I mean, you see some districts increase, you see some districts lose 48%. I mean, it's just, it's crazy.
But actually, it doesn't, millage determines the rate,
Mhm.
but assessed value determines the amount of money.
Right. I was just looking at the overall
Yeah.
numbers that,
And if you look at that table where you see the 877,000,
Mhm.
where Lorain County is grouped together, and compare what Lorain gets on that 38.1, and go up and see what Avon gets.
yes. Avon.
And that's
got
not going to equalize anything.
Yeah. Oberlin got hammered pretty bad on that thing.
I mean,
So anyway, so yeah, absolutely, that should be on our radar for comment, I guess it's a good conversation starter.
I think Josh has done a good job of looking at it, and I think he'll keep us close
Say as
to
we get closer and we have a better idea of what it's going to be. Like I told Jim earlier, I think the bones of it are heading in the right direction, but I still think there's a ton of unknowns.
a lot of
The transportation piece doesn't make any sense at all, but the bones of how it's structured makes sense. But when you start talking property taxes, there's a lot of things that factor into it, that a lot of unknowns that.
It didn't necessarily, it removed that compensation for special needs students and things like that, where you get a flat number, and depending on, you know, how many of this demographic you have, it could be difficult for you. So anyway, but yeah, I think when I was reading also, the person, the senator, was it Senator Smith or?
I forget the guy's.
Yeah, he indicated that it was really, he didn't have any expectations of certain things, except it started the conversation. And absolutely, sometimes you gotta put something out there to debate, discuss, and.
The
yeah.
intent's good,
Yeah.
it's just, it's a conversation starter.
It sure is. And it said nothing about community charters.
Oh, yeah, except the tuition follows the kid wherever, so it
Yeah.
basically funded.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Interesting, the open enrollment thing, it indicated you could select where you go because it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It was,
And I guess they're
Essentially,
calling it open
there's no
enrollment.
your
or they're
students
not.
on there.
yeah, you could just go wherever you.
Yeah, that's where you opted to go.
Just always remember Ronald Reagan's famous statement of the 9 deadliest words in the English language. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
On that, our next meeting will be January.
We have one yet? I don't know, we settled. I figure we could have a discussion.
Point of order, we have to set an
We do have to
organization.
set the organization.
That's required by Ohio Revised Code.
For the calendar.
If we were going to do it on a Monday, the earliest would be January 7th. No, excuse me, 9th.
Yeah, January 9th.
And we also traditionally have appointed a president pro tem for that meeting at the last regular board meeting of the year, which is tonight. And all that person, as you know, would call the meeting to order, chair the meeting through the election of the new president, because Mr. Williams' term ends at midnight on December 31st. So I think we should probably do that tonight.
Absolutely.
First by picking a meeting date and then president pro tem.
The 9th, everybody 9th? Usually we started that meeting in like 5:30.
5 o'clock or
5
so,
o'clock.
I don't remember. But one thing we have to make sure of is wherever it is, we don't end up like we did tonight. I mean, we could have meetings in this room every, don't worry about all of it. But
It's just tougher when schools in session and students are here.
yeah.
Football games.
Pretty open.
Well, and I had said this to you, Mr. Superintendent, a while back. Maybe we could set something up in the Lighthouse restaurant, which would bring public in there, and we could even set up an occasional come early, have dinner, and have our students get firsthand, not for free, but let people come in and have dinner here at 5 o'clock, and that would give our students in our culinary program. Is that restaurant operating yet?
Not as a restaurant. Is it second semester sometime?
Yeah, second semester will be
We had to wait
operational.
for students took a certain number of courses before they were.
'Cause I don't know if you've ever been out to the JBS, but they have a very active culinary program and have a public restaurant that operates, I think, daily.
All right, so our meeting is going to be the 9th. Anyone like to volunteer to be nominated?
I nominate Mr. Sturgill.
You accept that? We have a motion to nominate Mr. Sturgill as the president pro
Nominations
tem.
don't require a second. So.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck,
Opposed?
folks.
Nominate study.
You don't have to do anything, you just have to have nothing.
I know, I've been through a few of them.
This guy over here.
Just ask Jim.
Ask Jim, man. Jim will be there. Just ask Jim. What's that picture? Ask the preacher. Remember that? Ask the pastor. That name is terrible. You gotta ask Jim. Okay, is that taking care of our
Adjourn.
business? We have a motion to adjourn now, right?
I
Have a
move
motion?
to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia? Mr. Williams?
Yes. Yes.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.